So yeah, I mean, we're talking real life. We're talking to real people about real things, discussing real problems, coming up with real solutions. This is our life. This is my life. This is real life.
Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of my podcast. This is Cornelius, Lindsay, and I was asked a question by somebody about being able, or when do you know when it's time for you to step out on something? When do you know that it's time for you to step out and go get the job, or to start the business, or to get into the relationship? How do you know? I think that one of the places that, for me in my life that I started with was I love to look back at Abraham's life, and in Genesis chapter 12. In Genesis chapter 12 this is a very interesting exchange between God and Abram, or Abraham. It says in Genesis chapter 12, verse 1, it says, "Now the Lord said to Abram, go forth from your country and from your relatives and from your father's house to the land which I will show you." Now that's interesting because he says, go to a place that you have not seen. Go to a place that I'm going to show you. And then verse 2 says, "And I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and so shall be a blessing." Verse 3, "And I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you I will curse, and in you all the families of the earth will be blessed." Now, notice something. Verse 1 is a command to go. Verse 2 and verse 3 would be the blessings of the thing that come after you have left. It's like all the promises that'll happen after you step out. Now for you, and in no way do I want to taint the context of these verses, but in order to make this more practical, I want to bring it into a way in which we can possibly understand it, if I so can. So if we were to say that the thing that you are looking to be obedient in is to start the business, is to have the job, well then possibly, the promises that you have may be a little bit different. Your promises may be that you may be able to make this amount of money, or that you may be finally able to come out of debt, or something like that. It's just a promise that comes because of the obedience. So now, whatever that thing is, it's like, how do we get there? I think our answer goes to what is said in verse 1, what God says to Abram. He says, "Go forth from your country and from your relatives and from your father's house to the land which I will show you." Now, I always stop right there. Not saying that I stop there and I don't read it all the way through, but I stop there and I ponder. Because he says, go to a place and I'm going to show you. Now, I'm an analytical guy. So the first thing I think is, why would I go somewhere first without really knowing where I'm going? I don't see where I'm going. And for me, that's a problem. I feel like I should be able to see where I'm headed. I should be able to know I'm going in a direction, and the direction that I'm going in, this is where it is. It's almost as if you're telling me to meet you at a restaurant, but you're not telling me which one it is. But it's some things that I think that we can extract from this for our everyday life practically that can show us what we need to do in situations where we're asking, what should we do? He says, I want you to leave your father's house. I want you to leave your country. I want you to leave your relatives. I want you to leave what is familiar to you. I want to leave the place where you had settled. I want you to leave all those things, and I want you to go to an unfamiliar place. Now, here's the thing, Abraham. You don't know where I'm sending you, but I'm going to show it to you. Now, what we're able to deduce from that is this. Sometimes the promise or the purpose that we are seeking, we will find as we walk. I know that may not feel good to you, but if you're looking for something, sometimes it's not that you will receive it before you get there. It's that you need to first go on the journey, and then while you're going, you'll know it. He says leave all these things and go to the land which I will show you. Believe it or not, but you have an ability to be able to see things before you actually see it. What is the verse? It's John 20. John 20, I think it's verse 29. Jesus says, blessed are those who have not seen me, but yet they believe. Blessed are those who believe, but they have not yet seen. That speaks to me. What that says is that we have an ability to be able to have faith and believe that something is there, although we have not seen it tangibly. Now, for those realists out there, they hear that and they cringe because they think, well, I hear what you're saying, but shouldn't I first see it? Shouldn't I first know it? Shouldn't I first be able to touch it? Well, possibly so. But then when you think like that, you lose the insight of being able to see with your inner set of eyes, being able to know by faith that if I just step out, I know that I will see it on the journey there. Now, as Abram stepped out, there were many lands that he went to, many lands that he stopped in. There were many times he had to do many things along the journey, but it was along the journey where God was able to speak to him. It was along the journey where he was tested, especially when he lied about his wife and all those things to Pharaoh. There are a lot of different things that happened along the journey, but the journey was important. The journey that prepared him was important to take him to the place. In every place that he went to, it was important and a big part of the journey. A lot of times we want all the answers up front. We go to God in prayer and we say, God, would you please show us? And then it says, if God, he responds back to us and he says, yes, I'll show you, but I need for you to step out. And you say, no, God, that's not what I said. I said, God, show me. And God says, okay, I'm going to show you, but you need to step out. No, God, you don't understand what I'm saying. I need to see everything up front. And if I don't see it up front, then I'm not going to move. And I believe that's what stops most of us. And that's what keeps many of us in bondage, because we're trying to see everything before we see it. I hope you caught that. We're trying to see it before we see it. You don't want to, you're trying to see the building before you actually see the building. I'm a pastor of a church, and oftentimes I'll drive around and I like to see old rugged buildings. And the reason being is because as a visionary, I want to see not what the building is, but I want to see what the building can become. So I'll go and I'll be riding by a building and I may stop and I may just say, Holy Spirit, would you just help me to see something about this that I don't see? And then maybe as I'm looking at the building, I can see people who are running up towards the door. I can see kids who are outside playing and swinging on swings. I can see people who are, I can see where the parking lot is. You can put cars there. They can park to come into church. I'm looking at the building for what it can be. I can see something. I believe in it, but I haven't seen it. And you know what? I would have never been able to see it if I didn't leave from where I was at my house or leave my past destination and been on the road. There are many places that I have seen along the way when all I had to do is get in my car and drive. There are many things that I've seen along the way when all I had to do is leave my house and walk. There are things that I've driven past and I thought, man, I've never seen that before. But it was along the journey that I was able to see something that I had not yet seen. For my own life. People ask, well, how long you been in ministry? Well, I've been in ministry this long. I got into ministry in 2000 and 2009. I started full-time ministry in 2010. But in my life, it was I started to see a lot of what God desired for me to do, and I started to see my purpose begin to unfold as I continued along the journey. Now, has the journey always been easy? Absolutely not. But you know what? I've been able to see some things that I haven't been able to see, and along the journey, I was able to see things that otherwise I would not have seen if I would have stayed put in the place where I was at. So many of us, we want to have it all put together. We want to have it all looking together. We want it to be all perfect. We want to get the perfect business plan. We want to get the perfect ministry plan. We want to get the perfect thing. You want to cross off all of your items on your checklist. You want to make sure that your systems are all packed right. We want to make sure that it's all great. When we don't realize that, I believe God laughs at all that stuff. He says, oh, let me see your plans. That's not how it's going to go. You have a journey that you're going to walk, and ultimately you won't know it until you see it. People ask me, they'll say, Cornelius, how did you know that your wife was your wife? And I tell them, I just know. I just knew. I knew without a shadow of a doubt. My best friend, I got married before he did, and he used to ask me, say, how did you know that Heather was your wife? And I looked at him, but while he was a single man, and I said, you just know. And he said, no, it can't just be that easy. And I said, well, it was really that easy. I knew that she was my wife because I just knew. I saw her, and when I saw her, I knew it was her. I was going along the journey, and my journey was I just ended a relationship that was a off and on relationship for many years, for almost 8-9 years. I ended the relationship. I was content in just doing me, living my life like it's golden. And then all of a sudden, here comes Heather. But I met my wife while I was on the journey. It wasn't while I was standing still. It was while I was on the journey, continuously pursuing God. And finally, my best friend, he met a young lady. And when he met her, it was like, boom, it was like fireworks just kind of went off. And he's like, man, I want her and I want to be with her. And I remember asking him a couple of days before his wedding, I remember asking him, how do you know that this woman is your wife? And you know what his response was? He said, Cornelius, I just know. And for some people, that doesn't sound right. It's like, yeah, but it has to be some more to that. Actually, it's not. Whenever I read through the Word of God, I like to tell people it's a lot more simple than what we make it out to be. We want these things to be difficult. We want these things to be like all these steps, the 21 steps to finding a wife, and we don't realize that everything we need is along the journey. And it could be that the first step of the journey is you just going to the bookstore to buy the books to learn about how to build the vision. And you may see something at the bookstore that you're like, you know what? This is the book that I need, not this one. But I would not have seen it if I didn't go there. Or you could meet someone at the bookstore, which has happened to me many times. I went in there looking for a book on leadership. All of a sudden, I meet somebody who is a master in their field. We exchange information. We sit down. We have lunch. And now I was able to learn something about another field that I probably wouldn't have been able to learn if I had not walked into the bookstore. It's the journey that speaks more volumes than just the information that we're trying to get. We're trying to get all this information so that we can be more knowledgeable about the journey, when we don't realize that everything that we need is along the journey. Everything that you need. It's almost like if I'm taking a road trip right now. I live in Atlanta. If I were to take a road trip from Atlanta, I'll take a road trip to Los Angeles. Well, guess what? Conveniently located throughout the route from Atlanta to Los Angeles are gas stations. They're just conveniently located for what purpose? So that I can stop and I can fill up on gas. There are also food restaurants that are conveniently located on the route from Atlanta to Los Angeles. That means while I'm along the journey, I'm able to see things. I'm able to be provided for and have provision for things that I need for the journey. I believe the same is true for our journey of faith. Everything that we need is along the journey. And as long as you sit back, trying to wait, trying to wonder, when is this going to work for me? And how do I get this? And why doesn't this happen for me? And why me? And woe is me? And all these things. But you don't move forward, you won't be able to see it. And it's such a thing as being able to see something before you see it. It's possible. But I guarantee you, when you know it, you'll know it because you see it. There are some things that, I like to tell my wife, I'm one of those kind of shoppers that I don't want you, don't just pick up something for me because I have to see it. And when I see it, I say, that's mine. I know that's mine. That's how I pick out things. If I'm looking to buy something, I want to see it. And if I see it, I know that's mine. But I know I have to get up. I know I have to get there in order to see it. If I don't want it. And I want to be able to see it. I want to be able to know, put my eyes on it. Because there's a connection that happens when I see it. It's almost as if the Holy Spirit confirms in that moment, that's yours. That's what you're supposed to have. And in that moment, I say, you know what? That's what I want. That's what I'm going after. That's the beautiful thing about being able to know what it is that you are going for. So when you're asking the question, hey, why can't I just be successful in my purpose? And why can't I just do what I know I'm supposed to do? And why does it seem like these things are taking so long and all these things? Now, there's a lot of different factors to go into that. But I think that one of the big things you should ask yourself is, am I kind of standing still here? Am I kind of comfortable around my relatives? around the people that I know who's kind of been giving me the same old information over and over again? Am I comfortable in my country? Am I comfortable in that place, that little small box, that little small thing of influence that I've grown up in, that I've become comfortable with? Now, I'm from a very small town in Mississippi, a very, very small town in Mississippi. For most of my life, we only had one red light and it blinked the whole time. There was no bumper to bumper traffic. I think the most traffic we had was when they opened up a popular fast food joint, and that was years and years ago, and we waited almost an hour and a half for a Big Mac, and that was a big thing. We had a whole parade and everything. But I think about people who live in those small towns, and when I travel back or when I meet people from very small towns, I realize that the way that they think is also small, because it can only your mind can only expand to those things which you have seen. Isn't that something? That the journey actually opens up your mind for you to be able to explain and empathize with more people and more things. I've had the pleasure of traveling all around the world, but the greatest pleasure is not that I've had an opportunity to travel. The greatest honor and pleasure is that I've been able to take my wife and I have been able to take our children with us. Now that's important to us because I want our children to see things outside of their normal habitat. I don't want them to think this is just my country or this is just the city that I live in, so everybody is this way. No, I want them to see people who don't look like them, who don't talk like them, who don't act like them, who don't think like them, who don't, just people who don't speak like them. I want them to be around people because there's something about being able to see it. And now when they're able to see it, they're able to see something that maybe they would not have been able to see if they were in the same place. So is it your country? Is it your relatives? Or what about your father's house? What about that ruling order? What about what about those things that you have just kind of allowed to just kind of tumbled down generationally, and you're saying, I'm not willing to get under that. Well, mom and dad they were afraid of airplanes, and so I'm gonna be afraid of airplanes too. Or they never drove around, so I'm not gonna drive around either. Or they never started a business because they always said it was gonna be too hard, and they just wanted a stable life, so I'm not gonna do it either. What are those systems and beliefs that you have adopted and you've taken on yourself, and you're saying, well, this is just the life I'm gonna live, I'm not gonna do anything else? If that's you, then I'm telling you that what you may be trying to see, you can't see because your mind, you're so closed-minded. And it could be that what it is that you're looking for is along the journey. Now, will you see the land that God's going to show you tomorrow? Probably not. Could it be 3 months from now? Possibly. Could it be 6 months from now? Possibly. Could it be 9 months? Yeah. Could it be 12? Yeah. But you have to be open to being on the journey. You have to be open to relentlessly pursuing that which you know that you want to go for. And it could be like me. I was in a relentless pursuit for politics, to run for political office, but that wasn't in the cards for me. But it was along the journey that God was able to show me that where he wanted me and where he needed me. And that was to be a preacher of his gospel. That was to be a preacher of his truth. And because of that, I've been able to travel the world. I've been able to do a lot of amazing things and influence a lot of amazing people and been able to impact a lot of great nations that I probably would not have been able to do if I would have just stayed put in the place that I had already known. So whatever that thing is that you think, man, this is where I'm supposed to be going, I'm saying don't be closed-minded. Don't think that you're not getting there because God is upset with you or that he's overlooked you. But just know that if you just step out in faith, and it could just be a little small thing. If you just step out in faith, if you just reach out and send the message and ask for the mentor, ask for the guidance. You never know what you'll get. Buy the book. Go to the seminar. Visit the conference. You never know who you will meet. It may not even be the information that's at the conference that will be the most valuable, most value to you. It may be the connection that you make with the person who's sitting next to you. Don't be closed-minded about the journey, because I guarantee you, if you go on the journey, as God told Abraham, I'll show you the country you're supposed to be in. Then all the promises that come along with it, you want to know what those promises are? They're a byproduct of being obedient to being on the journey. Yeah, the journey won't be easy, but I guarantee you there are promises that will await those who are at least obedient to go on the journey. So if you want to see it, you need to start walking. And I don't know where you're going to start walking to, but you need to start walking and walk relentlessly. Amen. Man, thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. If this has blessed you, I encourage you to share this with your friends and your family and all those people who are out there who you love. I mean, I would really love that. Again, this is Cornelius Lindsay. God bless you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Real Life with Cornelius Lindsay. Hey, if you get an opportunity, please check out my website, www.corneliuslindsay.com. Until next time, remember, Jesus is Lord. God bless you.